Hey, y'all, Zach McDonald, your real estate agent with Real Property Associates, and this is my Seattle Housing Market Watch for November 4th, 2025. Happy November, everyone. We are just a little too early for the monthly market update here this month, so I will do another market watch as we bridge the gap to the monthly stats. So next week, we'll pause the market watch and we're going to look back at the past month. We'll look at Seattle, we'll look at King and Snohomish County separately. But for this week, we're going to continue on with our normal market watch, and we're going to look at King and Snohomish County data here together and look at inventory and movement. And then we're going to look at the individual pending stats for King County and then Snohomish County at the end. Let's jump into the update here. And we're seeing normal seasonal trends. Just a quick high level view. We're seeing the listings continue to diminish. And so last week, we saw 440 new listings hit the market in King and Snohomish County combined. That is fewer than the week prior of 517. We also saw a continuation of price reductions. So there are still many of houses that have been on the market for a little while that are finally seeing price adjustments, price drops, whatever you want to call them. And a lot of these houses have been on the market for a few weeks or more, some of them even longer than that. And we're still seeing that trend. 499 price reductions is a healthy amount, given that that's more than the amount of new listings that have come on the market here the past week. We're still seeing good pending activity as well. Lots of buyers out there. In fact, more buyers than there are listings. The key is the listings that are out there right now, though, in large part, are stale at this point. They're listings that people have seen. They've either toured them already or they're at a price point that doesn't match up with the market at this time. And so some of these houses that have been on for a little while, people are already moved on from. And so any of the new listings, some of those are selling relatively quickly. And we'll talk about that later on in this update, but there's also quite a few that have been sitting on the market for quite some time. And so when we're looking at the sold listings, we're seeing quite a bit of sold listings still, 572 this past week versus a couple weeks back, 579, pretty much the same number here. And we did see a slight decrease in the pending sales, 658 versus 782 the previous week. But again, we saw quite a bit fewer new listings, so it would make sense that we would see a drop off there in the pending sales. So overall, the market's pulling back a little bit. There's less coming onto the market. We still have good buyer activity, but again, lots of price reductions in the market. Before we move on to King and Snohomish County, I want to talk about rates a little bit because last week I mentioned that we were going to have the Fed rate cut and that we may, depending on the news, see rates go up, not down for mortgages. And so last week in our update on the 28th, Mortgage News Daily was reporting 6.13 for the mortgage rates. And today they are reporting 6.33, which is 0.2% higher than where they were just before the 0.25% rate cut. So rates have almost jumped the amount that they were reduced. And so the question is always, why is that? And a lot of that has to do with the commentary around what's to come and the concern around continued inflation. And that's why we're not seeing rates for mortgages continue to go down here, as a lot of that was already baked in. And now the market is responding to the new information, which is maybe we don't have this as much under control as we'd like, or we're not going to continue to see rates being dropped by the Fed. So King County, if we're looking at the pending sales data for the last week, I think this is the best way to see what's going on currently in the market. Again, we do the monthly King County update so we can see exact specific numbers for King County, and we'll look at that next week. This week, we're going to continue on talking about the pending sales data. And last week, this is from the 28th of October through the 4th of November, we saw $900 was the median sales price. That is a little bit less than the $935 we saw 2 weeks ago. We also saw that the percentage of list price remained about the same, 98% this week, 98% for the period of a week before. And a lot of this is, again, I think this is important to say, 98% of the current list price. So some of these listings, lots of price reductions. Maybe those are 2, 3 to 5% less than what they originally started at. So there's lots of opportunities out there for buyers. Maybe you're getting 5 to 7% off that original list price when it comes down to it, especially if you're able to be patient and kind of watch and see what happens to some of these listings. Multiple offers down a little bit, but really just kind of jumping in the 20 to 25% range. A couple weeks back, we saw 26% of all the listings had multiple offers, 21% over the past week in King County. 8% had escalation addendums. That just means buyers are willing to pay more than the asking price if there's competition. 7% had them last week, pretty much the same numbers there. And then we like to look at the contingencies. What contingencies are buyers including in their offers? The big one I want to point out is inspections. The last few weeks I've been talking about how we still are seeing far fewer than 50% of the buyers including inspection contingencies. And this last week, 52% included inspection contingencies. And this is the first time in a while where we've seen that large of a percentage of buyers including inspection contingencies. 45% last week. The financing addendums about the same. 75% of all offers in King County had financing addendums versus 76 2 weeks before. But I think just talking briefly, we're going to see this in Snohomish County as well. There's just a lot more inspection contingencies right now. And that means either buyers are including this even if there is a pre-inspection, or there's not the pre-inspection. My guess is the latter, because I don't know why sellers would stop doing pre-inspections all of a sudden. In my opinion, I think the shift here is more buyers doing their own due diligence on top of what the sellers did versus the sellers not doing any upfront. Now, Snohomish County is a little bit lower as far as the median sales price. This is normal, but a lot of similar competition metrics here this week. $750 was the median sales price over the last week in Snohomish County. $732, $497 the week prior. And again, we're going to see an average and median for the entire month in the update next week. The percentage of list price, 98%, same in Snohomish County over the past few weeks as it has been in King County. We're just seeing that there's opportunities, right, for the buyers in Snohomish County as well. Multiple offers right around that 20% mark, 21% this week. And escalations not quite as frequent in Snohomish County as it is in King County. Still small numbers here. 6% of offers included that escalation addendum. 5% included it in the previous week. But again, contingencies, we talked about inspections, and we're seeing that here again. 55% of all the offers had the inspection contingency in Snohomish County, and we only saw 47% have them last week. Financing addendums remain about the same, 80% versus 78%. But again, that inspection contingency is great for buyers. It's leverage for buyers for further negotiation. It's leverage for buyers to back out of a transaction if they're not happy with what they find during the inspection. It's more time to think through the costs associated with repairs. So I think for buyers, this is a big win. So if we're seeing more contingencies here, right, that's better for buyers. We're also seeing prices going down a little bit. I've been talking for probably 2 months now about this window for buyers and this opportunity. We still have enough inventory where there's not competition. There are plenty of houses that have been on the market for a while that may have a little bit more negotiation room, especially some that have been on the market for a long time. There are also some new listings, and those new listings, if you're a seller, you get the opportunity to be one of those fresh new listings. So that's one of the benefits of listing right now, is you have all these listings that everybody's seen and they've been watching and following for a while, and then all of a sudden you have this new listing, this fresh listing that's priced to where the market is and not chasing the market to where it's at. And all of a sudden buyers get really excited about that brand new listing. that they now have an opportunity to purchase in comparison with some of the other options. Sellers also, though, if you have the chance and it's not necessary to list now, waiting a little bit, doing some prep work, listing after the new year when the inventory even tightens up more is only going to help you. So in summary, we're seeing that the housing market is, at least the inventory is shrinking. We're seeing that the price reductions are continuing. There are still sellers trying to sell and move their houses. And inevitably, with the price reduction, priced right, any house is going to sell. Every house sells for the right price. And then the other factor we're seeing is that we're seeing continued buyer interest here in the Seattle area. So I think all signs are still pointing to our normal seasonal cycle of fewer listings on the market in the winter, and all the new listings as we're in the winter and early spring are going to get a lot of extra attention as they bring a little bit of fresh life to the housing market. Thanks so much for tuning into this week's Seattle Housing Market Watch. If you made it to the end of this video, I know that you got some value out of it. So a couple quick requests. Number one, please consider subscribing to the channel if you want to follow along with these updates on a regular basis. And if I, as a real estate agent, can bring any value to you as a home buyer or seller here in the area, I would love to connect.